On the day of college freshman registration, the senior in charge of guiding and assisting was overly enthusiastic towards my goddess-like beautiful girlfriend. Although I felt uncomfortable inside, I didn't say anything. After all, he was just helping, and maybe he was naturally warm-hearted. But later, from accidental encounters to openly giving gifts and persistent harassment, he finally abused his position as the student council president for personal gain. At first, I warned him, and later I even beat him many times, but he was a very stubborn person. He even publicly declared that he would definitely marry my girlfriend. I smiled and made a phone call. If that's the case, then you better wish yourself good luck. The September sunshine felt warm on my skin. Today was the day for university freshmen to register. I held Mary's hand tightly, our fingers interlaced. She wore a simple white dress today, with a tall figure and stunning looks. Even though she dressed modestly, as soon as she entered the campus, she became the center of attention. George, look over there, so many people. The registration point should be that way. Her voice was clear and pleasant, filled with joyful anticipation for the new environment. I smiled and squeezed her hand tighter in return. Let's go check it out. Student, the one wearing the white dress. An overly enthusiastic voice suddenly rang out. A boy wearing a faded blue t-shirt and jeans pushed through the crowd and quickly walked up to us. He had a welcome work badge hanging on his chest, a courteous smile on his face, but his eyes seemed glued in place, locked tightly onto Mary's face. I'm your senior, Chris, student council president, responsible for welcoming new students. He introduced himself rapidly, emphasizing his position. His gaze finally shot over to me for a quick, appraising glance, then immediately snapped back to Mary and stayed fixed there. You must be tired from the journey, right? Come, let me help you with your luggage. The registration point is just ahead. I'll take you there. Before I could say, no need to trouble yourself, he had already very naturally reached out and firmly grabbed the handle of Mary's pink and white rolling suitcase, moving so fast it was almost like he snatched it right from my hand. Senior, we can manage ourselves, Mary said, a bit embarrassed, trying to refuse. Oh, no need to be polite. It's only right to help out the juniors. Chris interrupted her, his tone firm, and he gripped the suitcase even tighter. Without a word, he pulled the suitcase to his side. Let's go, it's crowded here, don't get squeezed. He almost pushed Mary's suitcase forward, his body intentionally or unintentionally blocking the space between me and Mary, forcing her to keep up with his pace. Mary glanced back at me, her eyes showing a bit of helplessness and a question. I suppressed the slight discomfort of being ignored and crossed. I gave her a reassuring smile, signaling that it was okay. Maybe the senior was just overly enthusiastic. Its orientation, after all, understandable. Chris was indeed very experienced, leading us through the crowded throng, filling out forms, submitting materials, and collecting dormitory keys. The process went by quickly. However, his attentiveness was almost entirely focused on Mary. He asked Mary if she was tired, thirsty, or if she needed to rest in the dorm first. He showed great interest in Mary's hometown and major, asking question after question. As for me, he seemed to have selective blindness, and the occasional glances he cast my way carried a condescending scrutiny and a subtle sense of rejection. Arriving downstairs at Mary's dormitory building, he insisted on helping her carry the suitcase upstairs. This time, Mary's attitude was firm, carrying her usual gentle yet unequivocal politeness. Really, no need, senior. Let my boyfriend handle the rest. You've already helped a lot today. A flicker of disappointment crossed Chris's face, but it was quickly replaced by a smile. No trouble at all. So, Mary, shall we add each other on WeChat? If you ever have any questions about studies or life, feel free to reach out. Our school has many events, and I can keep you informed in time. He took out his phone, brought up a QR code on the screen, moving with smooth and natural ease. Mary's gaze instinctively shifted towards me. I stood to the side, hands in my pockets, not saying a word, but my expression clearly showed some displeasure. She immediately understood and gave Chris a flawless yet extremely distant smile. Thank you for your kindness, senior. But if there's anything, you should just contact my boyfriend. She naturally turned sideways and gently hooked her arm around mine. Chris's hand holding the phone froze mid-air. The smile on his face instantly stiffened, and a flash of astonishment quickly passed through his eyes. Oh, I see. He gave a dry laugh, hiding his embarrassment as he put away his phone. Then, all right, George Jr., right? Just come to me if you need anything in the future. Since it was my turn, there was no need to exchange contact info. He could just come to me directly. Take care, senior. I nodded lightly, my tone calm and steady, naturally wrapping my right arm around Mary's waist. Chris didn't say anything more, his gaze complicated as he glanced at Mary once again, then turned and squeezed into the crowd. Mary let out a soft sigh, leaning against me and murmuring quietly, "This senior is so strange, a bit too enthusiastic." She looked up at me with a hint of worry. "You're not angry, are you?" I patted her, the little annoyance I felt earlier fading away because of her obedient appearance. "Silly girl, why would I be angry? You did great today." After we settled down, we went out to explore around the school. Every time we reached a new place, we made sure to find out the good restaurants nearby, because we're both the same kind of people, foodies. College life is still very beautiful when you have someone you love by your side. Mary and I, like all couples in love, spent almost all our time together except during class. However, Chris's presence, like a persistent parasite, always managed to break this beautiful scene. At first, it was just chance encounters that could happen anytime, anywhere. At noon, just as Mary stepped out of the teaching building, he came around the corner holding a few books, his face lighting up with a surprised smile. Mary Jr. What a coincidence. Heading to the cafeteria? Want to join me? At the cafeteria window, she often cued at. I had just gone to save a seat and left for a moment. When I came back, I saw Chris holding a tray, standing very naturally beside her. Leaning slightly forward, animatedly saying something, Mary wore a polite but distant smile, her body clearly leaning back to create some distance. Seeing me return, her eyes instantly lit up with a look of relief. She quickly walked over to my side and quietly squeezed my palm with her small hand. The seat is saved. I put my arm around Mary's shoulder and directly led her to the spot we had saved. Chris's smile slowly faded, and he stood still holding his tray, looking at our intimate backs with eyes so dark they seemed to drip water. The library was also a place we liked to go. It was especially quiet. Mary had a quiet personality and also loved reading, so I got used to accompanying her to read in the library. Unexpectedly, Chris quickly caught on to Mary's habit and also began to appear frequently in the library. He would suddenly show up holding a book, lean over, and point to the content saying, "I recommend you take a look at this work by Chekhov. It's much better than those domestic writers you guys read." Really? He babbled on, completely self-absorbed. The more he talked, the closer his body got to Mary, who could even smell the cheap laundry detergent on him. Mary furrowed her delicate brows, tensed her body, and subtly slid her chair back a little. As she moved back, he leaned forward. Just when she had nowhere left to retreat, Chris's small frame was suddenly lifted by a force. I grabbed his back with both hands, lifted him up, and threw him out. What were you doing?" Chris got up from the ground, looking at me with a furious expression. He had never been this embarrassed at school before. "I want to ask you what you think you're doing. Mary is my girlfriend. Why the hell are you always getting so close? You're almost pressing your face against hers." He looked up at me, who was more than half a head taller than him, swallowed, but his eyes still showed some defiance. "I was just so engrossed in telling a story to Junior Mary, that's why." "Telling a story? Damn, you're even performing opera. Get lost quickly, and if I ever see you bothering my girlfriend again, I'll hit you every time." Chris hit a hard wall, his gaze sweeping over Mary, who was watching coldly nearby, forcing out an ugly smile. All right, you guys get back to it." Then he turned and left. No, he should have run away. Mary has complained to me more than once. He's really annoying, like a ghost. He can pop up anywhere. I've been trying to avoid him as much as possible, even giving him cold looks when I talk to him. But he just has no shame. She leaned on my shoulder, clearly shaken from the scare she just had. Also, yesterday he actually tried to give me a small wrap box, saying it was some kind of little encouragement for new members from the student council. Well, lunatic. I told him no and just walked away. The way he looked at me was really creepy. I held her tightly, gently patting her back to comfort her, but my gaze grew colder and colder. Chris's harassment had escalated from testing the waters to blatant stalking. I can't show him any kindness from now on. The results of the student council recruitment were announced quickly. Mary herself is talented in singing and dancing, so she entered the arts department without any doubt. I, being more athletically gifted, joined the sports department. This should have been a vibrant new experience in college life, but because of Chris's presence, it was overshadowed. With the student council leadership about to change and the president stepping down, Chris, as the vice president, actually holds most of the real power. This gave him an excellent platform to abuse his authority. After the first regular meeting of the arts department ended, I stood by the window at the end of the corridor waiting for Mary. The door opened, and the other members came out one after another. Finally, Mary and Chris walked out together. Chris was holding a stack of documents, tilting his head to talk to Mary, his body unconsciously leaning toward her, his arm almost touching her shoulder. For the opening dance of the welcome party this time, Mary, I think there's no one better than you. Your image and temperament stand out so much, standing in the center position will definitely blow everyone away. Chris's voice carried a tone of admiration. Senior, just call me Mary. Mary's voice was cold. She hugged her notebook and deliberately quickened her pace to put some distance between them. The specific positions and role assignments will be decided by our department head and the dance teacher. Hey, don't walk so fast. Chris also quickened his pace, wearing a smile he thought was charming, reaching out as if to grab her arm. Mary stopped walking and dodged his outstretched hand. Her voice suddenly rose, filled with clear anger and warning, like a slap across Chris's face. Please respect yourself. A few classmates who hadn't walked far down the corridor all looked over in surprise. Chris's hand froze in midair, the smile on his face completely fading, replaced by a dark and awkward expression. He probably didn't expect Mary to embarrass him so forcefully in front of everyone. At that moment, I, who had come to pick up Mary, saw the whole incident clearly. Fueled by anger, I couldn't hold myself back and kicked Chris squarely in the stomach, sending him flying several meters away. Chris was kicked to the ground, clutching his stomach and rolling in pain. Just as I was about to go up and kick him a few more times, Mary grabbed my waist. Mary, let go. If I don't beat him to death today, it means he's tough. Fueled by anger, I tried to pry Mary's hands apart and go beat him up. But Mary held me tightly with all her strength, not letting me move forward. You're too angry right now. You might actually kill him. People like him aren't worth it. Then Mary looked at Chris, who was still groaning on the ground, and shouted loudly, Hurry up and get out of here. I'm about to lose control of him. Chris, who was originally writhing on the ground as if he was about to die, upon hearing that he couldn't stop me, ignored the severe pain in his abdomen, scrambled up, hunched over, and ran away in a sorry state. Seeing Chris running away, I stomped my foot in anger. Why did you let him escape? Do you really have feelings for him? Dizzy with anger, I didn't even know what I was saying. Mary let go of my hand, looking at me with disappointment. Why do you think this way about me? I told you to let it go after you beat him up badly. Isn't that enough? George, truly capable people are not those brutes who slap others in public and punch and kick them. Instead, they strike in a way that makes people feel powerless to resist, leaving them in eternal despair. I am really disappointed in you. After saying that, Mary turned and ran away. Back in the dormitory, lying on the bed, I carefully thought about what Mary said. Yes, the gap between us is so big that I could have easily made him struggle for breath with just a flick of my finger. Why act like a brute and fight him to the death? That's just damn disgraceful. But revenge was definitely necessary. Otherwise, it wouldn't be my style. So I barely slept that night, just thinking of a more interesting way to deal with him. The next day, just as I closed my eyes, the alarm woke me up. I glanced at my watch and jumped out of bed. Today, I had to get to Mary's favorite breakfast place early to make it up to her. Mary had just come out of the dorm building when she saw me, tall and carrying several bags of breakfast, looking at her with an apologetic smile. She rolled her eyes, turned around, and walked off in another direction. Hey, wait, where are you going? I bought your favorite crab, roe, soup dumplings. I strode over quickly, sidled up beside her, and waved the takeout box in front of her eyes. I'm interested in someone else, going to have breakfast with them. Happy now, Mary said irritably, quickening her pace. I know she's still mad about yesterday. Actually, Mary is pretty easy to appease when she's upset. Usually, if I hold her and give her a kiss, she'll give in. It's the morning rush hour for class now, and with so many people around, I feel embarrassed to eat in front of her. So, I have no choice but to take a crab roe soup bun out of the takeout box and put it near her mouth. She refuses to eat it, so I block her way and won't let her leave. With no other option, she has to eat it. Then she playfully punches me a few times, which counts as cooling down. She takes my hand, and we walk toward the teaching building. I have to say, Chris is really like a rat. He never learns from getting hit, and still always shows up around Mary. Seeing that I was not around, he came over to chat a few words, not caring about others' expressions. When he saw me there, he just did his own thing nearby, sometimes throwing me a provocative look, as if to say, "What can you do to me?" I kept my composure. Mary was right, getting into a fight with this kind of guy would really be beneath me. So I glanced at my watch, then casually stole a look at him. Some people really are like toads wanting to eat swan meat. They don't even bother to take a look at their own poor appearance, worth no more than $100 from head to toe. This watch of mine alone is enough for your whole family to struggle for a lifetime. After saying that, she glanced at him with disdain and pulled Mary away. Chris watched our departing backs, his eyes burning with anger as if about to shoot flames. He looked pretty good, was a top student, and everyone recognized his abilities. The only sore point was that his family's conditions were too poor. His family is from the countryside, and his parents are not in good health. To pay for medical treatment, they let others farm their land, which also resulted in a significant shortage of food. So he lived very frugally, only having 2 sets of clothes to wear each season, and the clothes he wore were washed so much that they had faded and even frayed at the edges. He looked at the clothes on his body, took out his phone, and tremblingly dialed a number. A few days later, the student council organized a dance party. Many people came, and it was very lively. Mary stayed close by my side, quietly listening to me chatting with my friends. Chris sat in a lounge area, drinking beer one after another, his gaze occasionally sneaking a glance our way. Today he had clearly put a lot of effort into his appearance, styling his hair to look especially sharp, and he was no longer wearing the usual street stall clothes. That obvious logo. He was dressed in a full set of designer clothes. Not a luxury brand, but definitely not something he could usually afford. It seems the method still works. Thinking this, the corners of my mouth slightly lifted. I will slowly let him fall into an abyss of no return. Everyone was chatting happily when suddenly the lights dimmed. The host of the dance stepped onto the stage. Good evening, dear students, and welcome to this dance dedicated to youth. I hereby declare the dance officially started. Let the music play. If you have someone you like, then please ask her to dance the first dance. As soon as the words fell, Mary and I exchanged a smile. I took her hand and was about to walk toward the dance floor when Chris's voice sounded in my ear. "Hello, Ms. Mary, may I have this dance?" As he spoke, Chris slightly bowed and extended his right hand. Everyone around was shocked by his move. It was obvious that Mary and I were a couple, and this first dance was definitely meant for us to share. His sudden interruption like this was very rude. "Sorry, I have a boyfriend." Mary lifted our intertwined hands and smiled as she declined him. Chris did not show any disappointment on his face. It seemed he also knew Mary would never choose him. But he just wanted to make his stance clear in front of everyone. He was going to pursue Mary and disgust me a little. "Your outfit today isn't bad at all. This is how young people should look." I nodded at him, approving his look for the day. Of course, I didn't truly admire him. You have to show him some approval for him to keep pushing this matter forward. In the dance floor, that was Mary's domain. Watching her dance made it feel like her whole being was glowing. Her movements seemed guided by the music itself. Every move perfectly timed, powerful yet graceful. As the song ended, enthusiastic applause erupted from the audience, and Chris looked at Mary with a gaze so intense it seemed ready to burst into flames. He downed the drink beside him in one gulp, raised his sleeve to wipe the corner of his mouth, and turned to leave his seat. For every song after that, many people came to invite Mary to dance, but actually from the second song onwards, others were allowed to invite. But Mary kept holding my hand and wouldn't let go, so I stayed with her and danced from start to finish. The ball ended, and it was getting late. The crowd gradually dispersed in small groups, and we followed the flow of people outside. "Wait for me a moment. I'm going to the restroom." Perhaps because she had drunk too many beverages, Mary suddenly needed to go. "Let's go. I'll go with you." I didn't hesitate to walk back with her. "No need. Just wait for me here. We've been dancing all night. Don't let people think we can't be apart." She laughed, placing her bag in my hand, then quickly ran into the venue. At that moment, a sneaky figure slipped around the crowd and changed direction. Mary finished washing her hands and came out of the restroom, shaking the water off her hands. She looked up and was startled by a figure in front of her. After clearly seeing the person in front of her, Mary frowned, a look of disgust appearing on her face. She said nothing and planned to walk around him to leave. Indeed, this person was Chris, and Mary's first reaction upon seeing him was deeply hurt. He suddenly stepped forward, spreading his arms to block her way. "Mary, don't go." His voice was hoarse from excitement and alcohol. "Just give me a few minutes, just a few minutes." "Mary, I don't believe you can't see my feelings for you. Why can't you give me a chance?" "I have a boyfriend," Mary said coldly with a stern face. She didn't want to waste word with Chris and was about to leave after speaking. But how could Chris let her have her way? Today, to confess his feelings, he, who usually didn't touch alcohol, had gulped down 2 bottles of beer to boost his courage. He didn't want to miss this good opportunity. "You mean George?" When Chris mentioned me, anger flared in his eyes, and his emotions became agitated. "What's so good about him?" "He's just a bit taller, a bit more handsome, and comes from a better family. But does he study as well as I do?" Is he the student council president?" Listing 3 advantages of others, but only thinking of 2 for himself, made Chris feel very upset. "His character is better than yours. You better move aside, or I'll call for help." Facing Chris, Mary was extremely speechless, and she took out her phone to make a call. "No, I won't allow it. Give me a chance. Just once. Let me prove myself." Chris suddenly reached out and knocked Mary's phone away. "What are you doing?" Mary noticed something was off with Chris, his eyes staring blankly at her, his expression growing increasingly ferocious. She slowly stepped back, 1 step at a time, a bad feeling growing in her heart. "George, come save me quickly." I waited outside for a while and felt something was wrong. Why is the bathroom break taking so long? Could it be? Thinking of this, I hurriedly ran towards the venue. When I arrived, I saw Chris gradually closing in on Mary, wildly gesticulating and expressing something frantically. "Fuck you," I shouted as I rushed forward, delivering a kick that knocked the stunned Chris to the ground. Then I gave it my all with a barrage of punches and kicks. George, stop. Don't hit him anymore." Mary rushed over, tightly grabbing my arm, her voice trembling with tears and fear. Enough. If you keep going, something bad will happen." But the next day, we were still called to the office by the teacher. Counselor Smith, a man in his 40s with black-rimmed glasses and a stern face, was pacing back and forth in the hospital room with a frown. Department head Johnson, his hair graying and exuding authority, sat on a chair nearby, his face so dark it looked like it could drip water. "George, you're absolutely outrageous." Counselor Smith suddenly stopped in his tracks, his finger nearly poking my nose, spitting flying. Look at what you did to Chris. Huh? This is already enough to warrant a public security punishment. Do you even care about the school rules and regulations? Department Head Johnson cleared his throat, his voice low and authoritative, carrying an undeniable tone. Student George, impulsiveness is the devil. Chris is an outstanding student both in character and academics. A key student leader of the school is focused on cultivating. He is also a well-known impoverished student in our department, with a particularly difficult family situation. He works part-time to support himself, stretching every penny to the limit. Honest and upright. And you? Relying on your family's money, you dare to openly commit violence at school? Is there no law anymore? Mary trembled with anger upon hearing this. Her face flushed bright red. Teacher, it's not like that. Chris has been harassing me. Mary, Director Johnson sternly interrupted her, his gaze scrutinizing. You are young, and it's understandable to be emotional. But you must be responsible for your words. Chris's usual behavior is well known to everyone. He is the model of self-reliance among our impoverished students. You say it's harassment, but where is the evidence? Besides your and your boyfriend's one-sided words, who else can prove it? Those chance encounters? Those student council work arrangements? Can that really be considered harassment? I saw with my own eyes that he blocked Mary at the equipment room door. I suppressed my anger, my voice cold. He had ill intentions. Ill intentions? Teacher Smith sneered. George, you need to speak with evidence. Was there a third person present at the time? What about the surveillance footage? Is there a camera at the equipment room door? Nothing at all. Just your word. You want to accuse a top student with a difficult family background of harassment? I think you're used to bullying others with your power. Director Johnson stood up and made the final ruling. George, this matter is serious and has a very bad impact. You must publicly apologize to Chris. Compensate him for all medical expenses, nutrition costs, and mental damages. At the same time, we will record a demerit against you. Reflect on your actions. Otherwise, bear the consequences yourself. The office was deathly silent, with only Mary's suppressed sobbing. Seeing my usually well-behaved and sensible girlfriend being bullied like this, a cold fury surged from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. I sneered coldly. Apologize? Compensate? Punishment? In your dreams. I took out my phone and dialed that rarely called number. The phone rang once before being answered. Dad, I'm at school and ran into some trouble. I briefly and clearly recounted what happened, without any embellishment, just stating the facts. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. My father's voice came through the receiver, not loud, but carrying an authoritative tone. Understood. Protect Mary well. I'll handle the rest. Then, the call was decisively and neatly ended. The office was eerily quiet. Teacher Smith and Director Johnson exchanged glances, their faces filled with doubt and suspicion. They might have had a vague guess, but instinctively refused to believe it. Just 2 days later, in the principal's office, the principal, with hair combed meticulously, sat behind the large desk, his expression extremely grim. Director Johnson and Teacher Smith stood with their hands at their sides, beads of sweat forming on their foreheads, not daring to breathe. Mary and I sat on the sofa nearby. On the desk, in front of the principal, several documents were spread out. Director Johnson, Teacher Smith, the principal's voice was low, filled with suppressed anger. Look, really look, this is what you keep calling excellent character and scholarship. A student in extreme financial difficulty, honest and well-behaved. He grabbed a bank statement and slammed it hard on the desk. Chris, the first-class financial aid you applied for last year. The reason is that his parents are farmers, with an annual income of less than $5,000. The family even went into debt to support his schooling. All the documents are complete, stamped by the village committee. He grabbed another document and pointed at it. Take a look at this. His bank statements for the past 3 months. Look at these large expenditures. His entire outfit costs as much as my monthly salary, and he buys 5 sets of clothes like this. Is there such a poor student like him? Director Johnson and Teacher Smith's faces turned from red to white, then from white to blue, with beads of sweat sliding down their temples. They opened their mouths, but couldn't utter a single word. There was also a fighting incident. The principal took a sip of tea and continued. You jumped to conclusions without even investigating? Based on interviews with several students and video footage, Chris did indeed harass Mary. Now, I will explain the decision regarding this matter. The principal wearily rubbed his brow. First, cancel all of Chris's poverty student qualifications and revoke any scholarships and grants he has received. He is ordered to return all illegally obtained funds within a deadline. Second, remove him from the position of acting student council president and all other student leadership roles. Third, issue a school-wide public criticism. Record a major demerit against him. Principal, isn't this punishment a bit too harsh? After all, Teacher Smith and Director Johnson were stopped by the principal as soon as they began to speak. You two should also take some time off. You handled this matter very poorly, and it has had a terrible impact on the school. Principal, the principal said no more, just waved his hand to indicate for them to leave. After this incident, Chris seemed like a different person and started to give up on everything. He wore different designer clothes every day. He used to order the $5 meal in the cafeteria every time, but now he didn't even look at it and just ate whatever was good. He replaced his old, nearly falling apart phone that he had used for years with the latest trifold model. Everyone was whispering behind his back, wondering if he had won the lottery. Listening to others gossip, I smiled softly. Interesting, this Chris is even crazier than I imagined. He's practically courting death. Time flew by quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was the Chishi Festival. This was our first time celebrating Chishi at school. Since we got together, every year on Chishi we would spend it together, exchange gifts, have dinner, and put on a little show. This year, I want to give her a big surprise because we both turn 18 this year. If she gets touched, maybe... Suppressing my dirty thoughts, I took a day off early in the morning for both myself and Mary. I took her out to hang out and have fun all day, and in the evening, we arrived at the Dome restaurant I had booked in advance. This is the rooftop of the tallest building in the city, not only beautiful in environment, but also offering an excellent view. With a 360-degree, unobstructed view of the entire city skyline, Mary was very pleased with my plans for today. After dinner, I took her to the side where a binocular astronomical telescope had long been prepared. This is the gift I prepared for you. Take a look and see if you like it, I said, pointing to the telescope and signaling her to take a look. Why did you suddenly think of buying me a telescope? But watching the stars together on Chishi Festival is really romantic, she said as she leaned in and pressed her eye to the eyepiece. I also used the other eyepiece to point out the pre-marked star to her. Mary, do you see the marked star? I see it. So beautiful. It's called the George Mary Star. It's the gift I prepared for you today. I bought the naming rights to this star a month ago. Really? You're so kind. I love this gift so much. She jumped up happily and gave me a deep kiss on my face. Since you like it, can you promise me one thing? What is it? Can we not go back tonight? I looked at her with deep affection. She obviously understood what I meant, and her face immediately flushed with a rosy glow as she shyly lowered her head. This was clearly an acceptance. I lifted her in a princess, Carrie, and headed straight to the prepared room. She wrapped her arms around my neck, her eyes full of longing and nervousness, and in a shy voice so low only I could hear, she said, "This is my first time, so you have to be gentle." My gaze towards her was full of adoration. "Don't worry, baby. I will." At the same time, the school playground was filled with people. They looked at the drones arranged orderly in the sky, continuously expressing their admiration. This was a drone team Chris had found, performing a show with the theme of wishing everyone a happy Chishi Festival. Then it was all confessions to Mary, and finally, the drones formed her portrait. Wow. This is so amazing. It's my first time watching a live performance. I used to only see it in short videos. Yeah, I didn't expect Senior Chris to be a second-generation rich kid. He was really low-key before, But now that he's met the one he loves, he's not hiding it anymore and just laid it all out. Yeah, yeah. If anyone confesses to me in the future, I want this drone show too, no? I want something even better than this. Listening to everyone's discussions, Chris's vanity was greatly satisfied. Today's drone show cost him nearly $100,000, an astronomical amount in his eyes. He had shamelessly chased Mary for so long with no results. And today, on the Chishi Festival, he was prepared to make a big move. He had already maxed out all the online loans he could get to pay for the show, and now he had very little left. This was his last gamble. Actually, his personality is quite contradictory. Not only is he stubborn, but he also feels somewhat inferior due to his background. However, he studies well and is quite capable. At school, he is favored by teachers and respected by classmates, which give him a bit of pride. He looks down on rich second-generation heirs like George, who come from wealthy families, believing they're all spoiled brats incapable of achieving great things. Only he can make Mary's family company develop better. After finishing his daydream, he came back to his senses and searched for Mary's figure in the crowd again. What's going on? I haven't seen them all day. If Mary doesn't show up today, then this money will have been wasted. No, Chris thought it was better to film it and upload it online than hire some internet trolls to stir things up. That way, the loss could be minimized as much as possible. The next day, as soon as we entered the campus, we could feel the strange looks from our classmates and hear their whispered gossip while pointing fingers. Look, it's her. That Mary. Unbelievable. She completely played Senior Chris around. He spent so much money on a drone proposal, and she didn't even glance at it. TSK. She's definitely hooked up with someone powerful. I heard her boyfriend's family is super rich. Senior Chris is really pitiful. Such an outstanding person. Being bullied like this. Exactly. Did you see the campus forum? Last night's drone show was pinned to the top. The flush on Mary's face instantly faded, turning pale. She tightly grabbed my hand, her body trembling slightly. She quickly pulled out her phone. After glancing at the pinned hot post on the campus forum and several local trending search terms pushed by different platforms, her eyes immediately turned red. I took out my phone and looked at the post with distorted facts, deliberately clipped video segments, and the vile comments below. Gold digger, green tea bitch, playing with feelings, deserve to be harassed. I gently patted Mary's shoulder to comfort her, but my gaze slowly grew cold. No need to say more. There's only one way to solve this kind of problem, and that is to call the police. Soon the police uncovered the truth of the matter, and Chris was taken away by the authorities once. Before leaving, publicly apologized to Mary at school and post an apology statement online. The police asked if we wanted to hold her accountable. I said we would waive the pursuit, as we can't ruin a person over a momentary mistake. We still hope to give him a chance to reform. The police smiled and patted my shoulder. Young man, there's a catch. Actually, it's not that I don't want to hold him accountable, but Chris's various loans have already defaulted. I don't want him to enjoy an easy life in prison. However, when Chris stepped out of the detention center, the air he breathed was not freedom, but a suffocating stench of blood. Before he could even return to school, he was silently surrounded by several men with fierce faces and tattooed arms. The leader, with a fake smile, patted his pale face. Chris, right? You owe our company money. It's time to pay up, isn't it? Principal plus interest, $800,000. We've been lenient for so long. Isn't that enough? This was just one of the companies. Chris's legs went weak, and he almost collapsed to the ground. $800,000? When he borrowed, it was clearly only a little over $200,000. I have no money. Please, give me a few more days. His voice trembled uncontrollably. Lenient? Another burly man sneered, suddenly grabbing his collar. Can't come up with the money? Fine. We have plenty of ways to make you pay. We're professionals at debt collection. He was roughly shoved into a van and taken to an abandoned factory in a remote suburb. What awaited him was a hell 100 times worse than a detention center. He was stripped naked and stuffed into a small, filthy iron cage like livestock, forced to curl up inside, eating, drinking, and relieving himself there. The cage was placed in a cold, damp corner, with rats and cockroaches crawling over him. Every day's routine was being dragged out, served with a stun baton, or beaten with fists and feet, forced to reveal the phone numbers of his family and friends, trying to squeeze out the last bit of profit. He was beaten all over, his spirit nearly broken. Hunger, cold, and humiliation were everyday occurrences. He was forced to eat spoiled, foul food, doused with cold water, and made to bark like a dog. His dignity was completely crushed. The debt collectors quickly realized that this former university student leader's family was truly destitute, with no profit to be squeezed out. Keeping him around would only waste food. Damn it, what a useless piece of trash. Not a single drop of profit to be squeezed out. The debt collection leaders spat irritably. We can't keep feeding him for nothing. Get rid of him. A few days later, Chris, beaten half to death and in a daze, was like discarded cargo, secretly stuffed into a sealed truck. The vehicle jolted all the way, heading towards the southwestern border. There, he was handed over to another group, assessed, and traded like livestock. In the end, he was crammed onto a smuggling boat, destined for a park in northern Myanmar. What awaited him was the fate of being harvested for parts wherever a client needed them. Mary and I didn't fall behind in our studies at all. 2 years later, we graduated smoothly and then returned to work at our respective family companies. Chris's matter was like a small interlude. After a month, we had even forgotten there was such a person. In the second year at the company, while Mary and I were having dinner, she suddenly started gagging. I anxiously wanted to take her to the hospital. She coquettishly gave me a glare. Look at you, you silly guy. You're about to become a dad. So the two families quickly discussed and held an engagement ceremony, and a few months later we entered the hall of marriage. At that time, Mary was already 5 months pregnant. At the wedding, she was gently showing a small baby bump, and her whole appearance had become more prosperous. Time flies like a song, and a few more years passed in the blink of an eye. At dinner, our eldest son was studying in his room, and our youngest son was already able to wobble around the living room covered with a soft carpet. He was chasing after us, calling Dad, Mom, while Mary and the nanny were discussing what to have for dinner. My gaze fell again on Mary's noticeably swollen belly. She really has a fertile constitution, getting pregnant with just a touch. As a result, this is already the third pregnancy in just 5 years, and even I can clearly feel the growing weight of responsibility on my shoulders. No matter what, I will protect your future.